Get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
David Whiting joins you. He is a Melbourne solicitor here to give you free legal advice. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Raph.
There's a French citizen who has climbed a building in a Beckett Street.
Yes.
Apparently, he's been arrested, of course. He climbed the building.
At the top or the bottom?
At the top. Yep. I've seen the pictures of him being arrested at the top. His friend, who's also French, was sort of filming it all with a drone. Apparently, it's their last day in the country. Apparently, he's done this in 4 or 5 different countries. Is it a crime to climb a building without ropes?
No. There would be. There's a couple of angles. If you were the employer, yes, it would be an unsafe system of work.
Yes.
All right.
Presumably, he hasn't been paid to do this.
Well, he wouldn't be employed by anybody to do this, and it would also be trespass.
Yes.
All right, but I just don't see that climbing a building, being stupid, in my view, being stupid, necessarily constitutes an offence. I do not believe it's an offence. He might have been unlawfully on premises. That would be the offence.
Can they charge you, because lots of police and ambos and fireys, can they charge you because there are a lot of emergency services tied up and they say that's unnecessary, or...?
Probably not for a call-out of that kind. Right. If you're going to hold an event, a Moomba or a Melbourne show, whatever it is, you need a permit and you negotiate the provision in support of emergency services as part of that process and pay a fee.
Right. So if they charged everyone $5 to watch him climbing the building and there were lots of police,
yes,
then they would be able to charge for...
if we're conducting an event, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. That's in place of homework. I know that they're being spoken to by police, those 2 people, and I've seen other media reports that they are due to leave the country tomorrow.
So what you could do, though, Raph, is you could confiscate the film.
Yes, he had a GoPro on his head.
Yes, but if you were if you were to impound the film as part of a charge process, it just becomes rendered useless to the participants for a period of time. I would have thought.
Interesting.
More than one way to skin a cat.
Reg is in Bacchus Marsh. First question for the day. Reg, what happened? What would you like answered?
Yeah, my wife and I have a property, had for quite some time. We've been interstate for a couple of decades, and during that time my wife would come home every Christmas to check on the property. And this particular time, when she arrived back, found that the neighbour who had hired an excavator to come onto our property where there was no fence line,
yes,
and start burying rubbish in the dam, and then
burying rubbish in the dam.
Yes, and then using the dam wall to bury the evidence. She contacted the police. They said they would not be involved because it's a civil matter. It was over Christmas time, so we had there was no way we could do anything about it. My wife filmed it all.
Yes,
took photos of what was going on. The excavator operator was told to leave the property and remove the rubbish, as well as the owner of that property. That's where it has...
So what do you want to do, Reg?
Well, we don't know legally where we stand, because we thought our dam is no longer...
You have an action against the truck driver, whoever's driving the excavator. You have an action against them for trespass. You also have an action against them for all of the work that they did, the value of the removal of the rubbish, and probably the reinstatement of a dam. And you also would have an action against the person who engaged the excavator driver.
Right.
Again, same amount of damage. The claim would need to be resolved between the 2 of them, because I'm prepared to bet that the excavator driver will say, X told me to do this.
Yes. Where would I go to get to have that sort of action looked into?
Well, I would be visiting one of your local lawyers. And they'd be more than competent to handle the transaction. What you might want to do is get some kind of test or assessment of what's there. They may have buried something that shouldn't be buried. Don't know.
the dam, they did rip. My wife watched as the old mattress and other things were removed from the dam. They then did put the dam wall back in place roughly, but it did happen some time ago. Does time matter in regards to this
6
sort
years.
of a situation?
6 years.
6 years. So you're in time, but your issue, Reg, will be you've essentially got to say that tipper driver did that work. All right?
Okay, yeah.
So, if there's 27 people who've been tipping at your place in between your wife's Christmas visits, if I was acting for the excavator driver, I might be coming along and saying, well, I did that and that, but I didn't do any of the other stuff. And you have to prove your case, Reg.
Good luck, Reg. Hopefully your local lawyer can help you out. That would begin the Magistrates Court, David?
Claim's going to be less than $100,000, yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You might need a new permit for the dam, and making a dam wall requires an awful lot of skill and expertise.
It does indeed.
So, yes.
Thank you for that one, Reg. Anne is in Bendigo. Anne, what's your query?
Good morning. Yes, I have a question about the legal status in regards to the use of formal titles, as in a woman, being a woman, we're expected to choose Miss, Mrs, Ms, or even Madam.
Well, Anne, let's start. What would you like us to call you?
Anne.
Okay, good. Yep, no title. Yep.
No title.
Yes.
No,
Yep.
no. But so I'm doing some business with one of the large companies at the moment, and I've had a form rejected. It's a pension binding death nomination form, and on that form one of the required fields they had was I needed to put a title for my nominees, which I didn't do, and they've refused the form. So not only...
I'm with you. I mean, when we tend to write letters from work, Anne, titles just aren't there. We've sort of moved on from a Mr. or an honorific or a Mr. or a Mrs. or whatever it is. So we tend not to use them. But, yeah, every now and then you'll come across an electronic form that says you must use a descriptor, if you like.
Yes, that's right. And
I would just describe them as being entitled to use rather than obliged to use. Now, having said that, there are some situations in court, for example, where you are required to address the officer in a particular way.
Have they rejected your death benefit nomination, Anne, because that box hasn't been ticked?
Yes. The thing is, it's the mainly the female bit, the Miss, Mrs, whatever.
Yes.
Or if it's a
and can I say I take your point.
Can she refuse to fill it in legally?
Well, I don't want to make life any more difficult than I need to for people, Rath, but the insurance company who's dealing with her claim, the superannuation fund manager, will be a member of an organisation called AFCA, Australian Financial Complaints Authority. Every time you make a complaint to AFCA about the activity of a member organisation, they pay a fee to resolve the issue.
Yeah.
So I would go back to them and say, take it or I'm taking it to AFCA.
Right, I'll do that, yes.
Good luck.
Okay.
Let me know how you get on.
Good luck. It'd be interesting to know if other people have had that issue. I wonder if anyone's ever been taken to court over that. Mariah is in Mount Eliza. What's your query? Sorry, Maria, what's your query?
Hi. This is a follow-up to a previous call I made and sought advice about the number of dogs I can keep in the area. And now Mr. Whiting was very kind and advised me what to do. However, it wasn't. It was a law, and effectively.
So it's a local law, not a planning issue. Is that right?
Yes, and the council, I believe, has been very negligent in not advising the change. Every year, I would get 3 renewals, and I would renew.
So you had more dogs than they say you're allowed. That was the issue, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, I was supposed to have 2, but it wasn't advised to me, and 3 renewals were received, and I didn't think anything of it.
So what's your new or latest query?
Effectively, I have to attend the Magistrates Court in a couple of weeks, And
So you're telling me that for Mornington Peninsula Shire Council, there is now a local law that limits the number of dogs that can be housed at your premises. Is that right?
Apparently, that was in 2022.
Yes.
And
But since then, have you received renewals for 3 dogs?
Yes. And I renewed 3 dogs. And since then, I've surrendered one of the dogs and I've reduced it to 2, but they're still taking me to court because I refuse to acknowledge any of the fines and pay them.
Okay. Well, then your argument is with the magistrate. The magistrate will determine what penalty is appropriate. And you need to make it clear to the magistrate and you might plead guilty, but then provide other information. I haven't read the local law. I don't know the extent to which it might or might not apply, but I would have thought the appropriate thing to do would be to plead guilty, depending on what the law says, and explain to the magistrate your process, that you've had the dogs for this many years, that you might only be allowed to have 2 dogs, but the council went and sent you 3 registrations. And that must in some way put some blame on the council, and then it's a question of, so you might end up getting a nominal fine of $20, $50, $100, whatever it is, as opposed to the maximum fine that could be imposed. I think that that's something the magistrate would take into account when determining penalty.
Maria, good luck with that. Interesting to hear where that has got up to. Ben is in Tarneet. Ben, what's your query?
Can someone who's a key witness in a serious assault charge, it's a court case, it's coming up, been through all the processes and the trial date's been set, can they then say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not available on those dates because I'm taking a 4-week cruise and the trial's set for 15 days?
So you're a witness in a criminal trial,
Ben,
but you've got a cruise.
Ben, let's run this through, right? Let's assume for the sake of this discussion that you are the witness, all right?
I'll make it clear, I'm the victim, actually, and they're required to be a witness.
Right.
So, and I got this info, and it's very upsetting me. He says,
yep. Right.
Yeah,
if I was a couple of approaches. Is this criminal or civil? Criminal, isn't it?
Criminal.
Okay. Then if I was in your case, I would be going to the informant, to the police officer concerned, and say, when did this person book their ticket? Now, I would be complaining bitterly to the police if the ticket was booked after the trial date was fixed and the witness was advised. It would be possible for them to issue a subpoena to require the person's attendance. Now, they're going to do that anyway, but I do think that if this person had already booked their cruise, then that's just the way the system works. But on the other hand, if the ticket was purchased after the trial date was fixed, I'm in your boat, Ben. I'd be complaining vigorously.
Yeah, well, it was actually only booked Sunday and paid for on Sunday, and I found out by accident Sunday afternoon. Right. And the trial is set for early April, and the person was advised but said, well, I've got no note in my diary because I opened it up and it was blank. And I said, well, that's your problem.
You need to go and talk to the police about the issue, because the ticket, on what you've told me, was acquired after being provided with information about the hearing.
Good luck, Ben. That doesn't sound like a comfortable place to be either. I'll get to more calls for David Whiting in a moment.
Eliza, I've been bewitched by you since we met. I propose we marry.
Ugh.
What is it?
Zara is cancelling her subscription to the streaming service we're on. It's getting too expensive.
How will she stay entertained?
ABC iView. It's got drama, comedy, kids shows, and it's all free.
Well, what if we pay for her subscription? We could sell Winchester.
It doesn't work like that.
ABC iView. Always free. Always entertaining.
This is ABC Radio Melbourne with Raf Epstein.
David Whiting is answering your legal questions. Imogen's in Campbell's Creek. What is it, Imogen? What's going on?
Oh, good morning, David. I am the owner of one unit in a block of 4, and I manage the owners' corporation. One of the unit owners died last year, owing $600 in fees, and his daughter, who is an only child, has moved into the unit and refuses to pay the arrears of $600.
Yes.
His sister, the executrix of his will, has refused to act, and the solicitors holding the will have no instructions in relation to the estate. So my question is, how can I recoup the $600 arrears and the ongoing fees?
Oh, gee whiz. Two strategies, Imogen. Neither of them are particularly attractive.
Yeah.
If the owners' corporation levies are validly fixed and are unpaid, it is possible for you to get a judgment against the estate for the unpaid fees. It's then possible for you to force a sale of the person's unit, though for $600 I don't know. Your other option is to ask state trustees to take on the administration of the estate. State trustees is the effective administrator between death and somebody standing up to take on the role. And you might say that there is a will. The other option might be that you could make, and we're starting to spend horribly large amounts of money here, an application to the Supreme Court for the deceased's sister to be passed over as executor and for state trustees to be placed in as administrators. But that I tend to think that in the shorter term, it simply makes more sense if the other owners contribute to cover the costs in the short term. It's not brilliant, but I don't know that I want to spend thousands to chase 600.
No.
Okay.
That's what we've done. There's only the 3 of us now, and so we've had a meeting and we've increased the fees, so we're all paying an extra $200.
No, Imogen. What you want to do is set the fees as you normally would, perhaps with a margin, and then what you then do is you borrow from your other members to pay so that there is sufficient funds in the owners' corporation to pay it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right? I don't want you to turn around and say, well, we've got 4 units but only 3 are paying, so we'll make it $800 a unit instead of $600 a unit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay,
Right.
Imogen. Good luck. Doesn't sound like a pleasant place to be either. Kath is in Fairfield. What's your query, Kath?
Oh, good morning. It's a query about an adjoining wall between our property and next door. There's going to be a development commencing in a couple of months' time. And this wall is attached to a garage that belongs to next door, and it's an integral part of our courtyard. So we're really concerned about the wall coming down, and
Kath,
we're going to...
Kath, you've answered your own question. It's your neighbour's wall.
But it's on our. It's right on the boundary of our property.
I understand, but if the boundary line was a very thin line, would it be on their side or your side?
Still on our side.
No, the courtyard's on your side. Where's the wall?
The wall's on the line, I gather.
I would assume,
it's right
not
on
quite
the line.
prepared to bet,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm assuming that it's their wall,
Yeah.
and next to which you've created a beautiful courtyard.
Yes.
That doesn't give you an ownership interest in the wall.
Right. So I don't have any. I mean, we have mentioned to the new owner that we'd like to discuss that wall around fencing and so forth, what the plan might be. But we don't have any argument about having a brick wall about the same height or close
and the
to
same
that
colour.
height.
And no, you're going to start getting issues in relation to protection works.
Right.
And there's going to be a discussion about what they will do to protect your property while the wall comes down.
Yes.
And then there will be what they're going to do to protect your property while it gets replaced with something that may look nothing like what's there now.
Yep.
And then there are issues in relation to insurance for the protection of your property. What you might do is wander off to council and see if someone's made an application for a planning permit in respect of your property.
There is. There
Right.
is a permit, yep.
Then go and have a look at the plans. There will be there will be concept plans attached to the planning permit application. That's a public document and you're able to go and look at it. So
Right.
that's the way you can start being informed for the discussion you're clearly going to have.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kath. So no rights really. If the wall's entirely on the neighbour's side, David,
it's not your wall.
Not your wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Jane is in Glen Iris. Jane, what's your query?
Oh, hi, David and Raf. We have a dispute we need to deal with a major online retailer. However, they won't provide an email or phone number to contact them on. They require you to have an account with them to contact them. And obviously our bank and consumer affairs require you to have attempted to contact the business before you can get any more help. So are there any other suggestions you have as to how we can...
Sorry, if you don't have an account with them, what's your dispute?
We checked out one item as a guest, and it seems that they have said that we opted in to a subscription service which is going to cost us $100 a year, which we dispute that we opted into.
And you don't want to get an account because then you'll be subscribing to the same thing.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And a bit of online research says this is
and a beautiful bit of
common issue.
bloody-mindedness. I don't want to play their game by their rules. Jane, do a company or a business name search. You'll end up with a physical address for them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so asic.gov.au, type in their name, you will find that there will be an address there. Also have a look at the Australian Business Register because they will presumably quote, and that's abr.business.gov.au, and you will be able to get their formal name from that. And again, you'll end up with a street address. You won't get an email address, you won't get a phone number, but you'll get a street address that you can send everything to. And then they'll start talking to you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck. Cheryl is in Heidelberg. Cheryl, what's your query?
Oh, hi. I was turning the radio off. I have had this problem. I've got a newly landscaped garden a couple of years ago, and our neighbour's fence has got ivy coming through it. I've sprayed it back numerous times, and I've asked them if they could actually rid their garden of the ivy because it's really destroying our garden. And they've said no, that we could come into the backyard and get rid of it, but they can't do it. I'm just wondering where I stand legally.
You have the right to take them to a magistrate's court to restrain a continuing nuisance, which is the encroachment of their ivy onto your property.
To a magistrate's court, so that's going to cost me some money, I imagine.
Indeed. The other thing you could do is contact Disputes Resolution Victoria, which is a state government service. So there can be, and it's no one has to turn up if they don't want to, but it creates an opportunity for a discussion about what the problem is. You've spent a lot of money getting your garden just perfect, and someone else's ivy doesn't fit in your model.
Not surely doesn't. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks, good luck, Cheryl. And we might end with Greg, who's in Ballarat. Greg, what's your query?
Hello, David.
Greg.
How are you? Thank you for your time. I was just wondering about the legalities and the implications of selling a property to my son. It's a beach house.
It's not your residence then, Greg? I mean, you might own it, but it's not your principal residence.
No.
Okay. No. So what's the question? It sounds to me to be fairly straightforward. You're probably going to pay capital gains tax and you're going to pay stamp duty.
Yes. Now, the thing is, can I, at the same time, can it be financed internally through the family?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he can make a deposit. We can set up a caveat on the.
Okay. What we've got is something that the law calls or likely to be, something that's called a terms contract.
Yes.
A terms contract is where the buyer gets possession of the property prior to paying the whole of the purchase money. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, the seller becomes the financier.
That's
now,
right.
under the Sale of Land Act, if there's a terms contract in place, the buyer, that is your son, can come along and say, I now want to complete the purchase, and you put a mortgage in place where Dad is the lender and so this property is registered in the son's name, and then Dad registers a mortgage for the unpaid purchase price. Right, so that's doable. There is a slight complication. Do you have a mortgage against the property now?
No.
All right. If you had a mortgage against the property, the Sale of Land Act says that if you sell land on terms, you've got to discharge the mortgage. So that doesn't affect you. So what you're doing, what you're talking about is a cash contract of sale or a contract of sale where you provide the vendor finance.
That's right.
Right. Now you're not a registered money lender. You don't do this often, Greg?
No, not often.
Okay, then you're not too many beach houses probably.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to get into trouble with the Consumer Credit Code. All right.
Right. And in saying that, David, the reason why we're doing this is basically land tax. Is the land tax payable for this coming year?
Land tax for 2024 is based on your land holding as at the 31st of December 2023.
Good.
Now, what's the value of the property, Greg?
Hideous.
No, well, okay. But here's my problem. It really depends how many you're going to have to pay on what you've just told me, a hideous amount of capital gains tax.
Yep.
Oh, gee, that flowed, didn't it? That was just clearly not hideous in your mind, Greg. But then,
it's a necessary evil, I believe.
Well, land tax, yeah,
land tax plus stamp duty. That's more than stamp duty plus capital gain. Wouldn't that be more, Greg, than the land tax?
Yeah, it will be. But at what point do they equalise? Yeah. And presumably, your poor son doesn't have any property, doesn't have your vast land holdings, and his land tax bill will be less.
He would have no land tax
because he'd be living there.
And it also, it also stays within the family.
Yeah,
okay. That's the whole
Understood, Greg.
Good luck, Greg. Good luck. Interesting way to fix that particular dilemma. David Whiting, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray.